Hey, Ben.
Got so many early joiners.
Anxious peeps. You look pretty good for 48 hours straight. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like Halloween music's starting to ramp up, huh?
The game is starting over there.
Oh,
yeah.
Tape. I'll be back.
I don't know. Can't get these to work. Good. Go into a different room. There's your card. All right. Give people a few more minutes.
You and your new digs there, Ben?
Oh, I see what's going on.
Hey, Ben, is that your new crib?
It is not my new crib. It's the office.
Ah.
Never knew Samsung made so many different things until I came into here.
You see their new little mini jam box they came out with today? It's pretty cool.
I didn't.
Yeah. It's looks like the Jawbone or the Bose mini jam box. I think it was $99. Good price point. Bose is, I think, $250 or $199, something like that. It's amazing the sound those things put out.
Yeah, I'm a company man now. I got these Samsung. I think they're level
Right.
over the years.
Yeah, the level. That's that whole product line. It's a Samsung level mini jam box or something like that is the name.
There's some big time ping pong, I guess, going on over here, so it's a little bit loud. I might have to move. But one of the things that we wanted to talk about, I don't know that folks have joined yet, but Scott said he was going to join and kind of walk through some of the migration things that we've been doing in the last 48 hours, and then, or maybe even 12 hours. And then we're going to get an update from Gilbert on some roadmap things, although probably not as exciting as what it'll be after SDC in a few weeks. I think we'll have more announcements then.
Ben, at what? Where will be the more announcements?
After SDC, which is the Samsung Developer Conference coming up.
Oh, SDC. Okay, yep.
Mm-hmm. You want to try to go into one of those rooms? It's always like some sort of like art or theater when Patrick joins. He's just got like the light on him. Only his head is available.
What do you want? You want me to
No, it's good.
here?
No, I like it. It's much better than whatever Todd is always showing.
I could show the pregame for the World Series, but you'd probably not have the rights for that. Major League Baseball would shut you down.
Oh. I'm all backlit now. Yeah, so I'll just kind of walk you through some of the agenda. Some of it's been posted online for the meeting. I think it can still be quite flexible. Got some good participation, but I'm waiting for a few of our team members to join. So what's new? What do you guys want to talk about? There's Gilbert. He's one of them.
Definitely. What was the amount of energy drinks that was consumed in the last 72 hours?
Well, I've kind of sworn off of energy drinks except in the most dire of circumstances. It didn't quite get to that, but
Okay.
I was definitely caffeinated. Went and got coffee at like 8 p.m. and it was a long night for sure. I don't think I finally fell asleep until after 4. But some of the people on the East Coast had it much rougher.
Yeah. Well, good job. It's I like the little nuance changes that I've seen so far in the ID. I can't believe how fast the IDE is now, and I love how it stays on your current line and doesn't wrap you to the beginning of the file when you save and publish. That is, for a developer, I had a little tear in my eye. I was so happy because I would hate to be on 3219, and then as soon as I would hit the publish button, it would take me to line 1. I would literally have to remember, okay, I'd always have to go look at the line number where I was at when I was troubleshooting things and everything. And that little thing saves a ton of time.
The My Smart App screen is still very slow to load for me, and especially if you have any more than like 10 smart apps, it can be very slow. But I think you'll start to see more and more IDE improvements since right now we've got dedicated time from a developer, and it's kind of amazing. So just having that has been good. I'm trying to dial in here on a separate thing. I see that Scott has joined now. I know that he has limited time to kind of just give a quick overview of maybe some of the issues that we've been having over the weekend into the week, and then a little bit about the migration that occurred early this morning. So if Scott, you can go, that's great.
Hey guys. So I apologize. I do have to drop shortly here, but just want to talk a little bit about, like Ben said, maybe go a little deeper on the post on the build forum that Ben and Ermin were talking about. So we where to start? So we've had capacity and some capacity and scalability issues recently. Obviously, I apologize. I haven't slept much, but so we've been planning to migrate to Cassandra for quite some time. I think our first actual integration with Cassandra as our NoSQL data store was first introduced last December, and we've been rolling it slowly because it was a major architectural piece, and we didn't want to make that change willy-nilly. And thankfully, we finally rolled it out. As Ben pointed out in the build post, it was scheduled to go out yesterday anyway, and thankfully that we were able to keep with that schedule. What we used Cassandra for, what we're using Cassandra for now, we're starting the migration away from AWS's DynamoDB, which interestingly enough is backed by Cassandra, but they put an interface in front of it. The biggest thing that Cassandra native, like running native Cassandra cluster ourselves over using DynamoDB gives us is the ability to scale the Cassandra cluster itself more linearly and give us more insight into how it's performing. We still use MySQL for some of our data. So we actually right now are using MySQL for some of our data. And because this is a phased rollout to get Cassandra in place, we're still using Amazon's DynamoDB and our own Cassandra cluster as well. And over the coming weeks, we'll migrate away from using Amazon's DynamoDB and use Cassandra fully. And the reason for that phased rollout of Cassandra is so that we don't lose, well, so that we can migrate sanely different pieces of the data differently, if that makes sense. So right now we're actually writing our NoSQL or event data into both Dynamo and Cassandra. Another big portion of the stability and throughput capacity that we've seen just since this last deployment last night is in our implementation of using Memcache and Redis for some write-through caches. So we have a lot of data that is written once and read very frequently. That's most of the hub data, most of the device data, all of the event data. And so some of those reads can be expensive coming out of MySQL. So we introduced a layer of caching in front of that to lighten the load on the database.
And you mean expensive in the way that it's expensive from a data standpoint, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Again, I haven't really slept very much since we rolled this out last night. So I apologize. Going really deep, really fast here. Yeah, when I say expensive, I'm not talking about money. I'm talking as an engineer. They take a long time and they take a lot of CPU resources. Thanks, Ben. So some of these queries take up a lot of CPU time, a lot of RAM, and are expensive in an engineering sense in that way. So by utilizing a short-lived cache in front of it, like Memcache or Redis, allows us to not take that hit in quite the same way, and allows us to reduce system resources across the board. So I know I went really deep really quickly. Ben, first, did I miss anything or gloss over anything that you wanted me to?
Can you give us like a sense of a few of the metrics that you've seen? I saw something that was like our peak database spike today was lower than our lowest was yesterday or whatever. But anything like that you can share?
Yeah, I don't have specific numbers right offhand, but that is accurate. That especially looking at a 24-hour period of now versus yesterday at this time, I always expect that everybody on this call is a developer, so I can just geek out a little bit. So if you are looking at the CPU graph over any given hour time span today, it's jumpy on each of our servers as well as on the database server itself, just based on traffic patterns and what else is going on. Our peak in any given hour, as Ben pointed out today, was lower than our valleys, if you will, from yesterday or any time in the last I don't know. I only went back 5 days when looking at that, but I'm sure it was longer ago than that.
All right, cool.
And when I first joined, I heard people talking. I think Todd was talking about the IDE and loading the smart app pages. And I think, our first cut at all of these performance improvements, which again, I want to reiterate, has been in the works for months, right? We've been working on this caching and Cassandra rollout in earnest for, since the summer. The first development of it started as far back as last December, but really got serious attention this summer, and just took longer and to test and roll out in what we felt was a comfortable and sane way than we had originally anticipated. So on the IDE front, our focus first was on the heaviest hit portions of the application, which is for us device events. So information coming from devices and hubs, because they never sleep. They're always sending data. So a lot of our performance enhancements have been focused mainly on that flow. So getting events into the system and executing smart apps. So a lot of the web traffic has gotten a little bit of a boost, whether that's in the web IDE or in the mobile apps. Some of those have gotten a boost because of these performance enhancements, but they haven't been the focus yet. And so that's still like another wave of enhancements and improvements that we're looking to make in the coming weeks. And as Ben mentioned, just as I was joining, we also have a developer who is wholly focused on the IDE right now, which goes a long way, rather than people having split time trying to do more than one thing. Does anybody have any quick questions, or Ben, anything you want me to cover really briefly? I apologize, I have to go after the last couple nights. I need to help get the kids to bed instead of letting my wife do that.
Any questions before?
Todd, I always expect you've got something.
You know what? I'm just still happy that you guys rolled that out and it made it on your light switch time that you wanted last night. And I'm happy. Everybody was putting in their comments on the community on going down the last few days. But I think I came online March 2013, and it's just amazing to me how far you guys have come, and the speed at which things go, how much you've expanded the infrastructure, how much you've expanded the functionality of the tool on all facets. I mean, bringing Windows online, Windows Phone 8.1, and again, I know that your team is not huge, and I know you all guys, every one of you is, you're all in, and I really appreciate the good work you're doing. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Todd. That means a lot, and thanks to everybody on the call and everybody who spends time on the build forums. It means a lot to me and to Ben and to the other founders and all of the developers, right? Like, you guys make all of this worthwhile. I think it's super exciting to see just how people came out to comment on the forums just to say, great, thanks for the update, good luck tonight, right? That means a lot to me as a developer, and just knowing that you guys are there means a lot. I know it's been frustrating for you guys. It's been super frustrating for us as well, but it means a lot that you guys are around, and it shows how much you care, right? To even be on this call, and so that means a lot to me.
All right, good job, Scott.
Yeah, I can definitely say that Scott's been working long and hard. I've sent him emails and I can't even get him to respond to it. But they're doing an awesome job, and a lot of times it may seem like we may not be moving as fast as we may want to on a lot of different things, and That's because we're working on a lot of different fronts, and we're pushing really hard. So we apologize. It seems like we've been stale for some time, but you can tell by Scott's bags under his eyes that he's been working pretty hard lately.
Hey, Scott, real quick, I just wanted to say you put a personal and human touch on it. We all have kids, we all have lives, and family comes first. So I just want to say my heartfelt thanks. I've been in your shoes before. I know what outages and downtime and struggles can go through. So truly, go take care of the kids, go take care of the wife. And we can all complain about it, and vent our frustrations, but the reality is it's nothing personal. We all are humans at the end of the day. So go take care of what's personal.
No, go watch the Giants game.
Watch baseball like I'm doing right now. So,
well, thanks for that, Patrick. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I will say, no matter what you guys exemplify is at the heart of all of this is the communication. I was just, I've stayed on the sidelines through this one, and I just kept watching the emails stroll in about all the notifications I was getting of an outage that, frankly, just kind of flew by me. So you guys kept everybody in the loop that needed to be in the loop, and it sucks, but you know what? That's life. You guys are dealing with it in the best possible way you can.
We're definitely trying. Thanks, Patrick, for that. That means a lot. Being a founder, I take outages. Being a founder and a developer and VP of engineering, I take outages a little too personally sometimes, and that's not really good for anybody. But it's super frustrating. But I really appreciate the sentiment. Thank you. All right, guys. Ben will obviously relay to me any other requests or complaints. And as always, as things come in, reach out to Ben or to me or to support as you see things that don't seem right today or tomorrow or next year. All right. Thanks for all of your hard work making this platform what it is. All right. Have a good night, guys.
Thanks.
See you, Scott.
All right, and now I know Gilbert is also looking to give a bit of an update as well. So Gilbert, go ahead.
Yeah, so the platform team has mainly been working on the Cassandra rollout, as you might know already. So there hasn't been a lot of work done on that part. A lot of the big focuses that we're working on right now is two things. One is all the things that are happening for SDC. And if any of you guys are joining, let us know, and we'll see if we can meet you guys up at the conference in San Francisco, and that's going to be on November 11th. I think registration's still open right now. And the second thing that we're working on is, as you guys may have already heard, is our next generation hub and what that all means. So I can't go into too much detail on what that really means, but some of those things about local processing and not using the cloud or dependent on the cloud for processing, that's one of the major things that we're working on right now. The hardware, we're kind of wrapping up, the shells, the moldings and all that stuff. We're working on packaging. So there's a lot of different, we're emphasizing on the platform right now. So apologies if you guys haven't been seeing a lot of new devices come online, a lot of new integrations. That's where we'll be leaning on you guys for a little bit of that. I know that that's not the ideal thing, but we're trying to build out the best platform for you guys to continue to do what you guys do best. But definitely, if there are things that you need, let us know as well too. On the SDC front, for those who won't be able to make it, as you expect, you'll likely see SmartThings talking to Samsung appliances. I can't go into great detail about that, but you can imagine a Samsung connected refrigerator will have doors on there, will have temperature sensors on there, and things like that stuff. So you can treat that as a normal device. There's a handful of other appliances that we'll be talking to. And I'm sure Ben, maybe we'll do a recap for people that can't join SDC on what that is, so that they can kind of live it a little bit and kind of understand what's going on there and maybe the future of connected appliances down the road. And then on the hub side, on the next generation stuff, we'll be on the hardware, but there are going to be some feature improvements and more modules. We kind of hinted at possibly doing video in the future. We're still working on that, a lot of that stuff. And then I know that Ermin right now is going through some of Todd's heavy lifting on like the TCP improvements prior to the outage or prior to the integration interruption. So he's testing that out. Right now he's in Canada, unfortunately, for SDC's model home. But once he gets back, he's going to be testing out the stuff that Todd submitted, I think, a week or two ago. And hopefully that improves some of the TCP stuff for those who are not influenced by the firmware change recently. I'll take a second to update you guys on the TCP stuff. I haven't had a chance to talk to Todd yet, but we're waiting to hear back from TCP on some additional API documentation and seeing what they changed and whether or not it's going to require us to rewrite everything or whether or not it's just a new authentication flow or whatnot. But apologize on behalf of TCP and ourselves on the broken integration right now. We are going to work out a better process where they will let us know prior to a firmware push to let us know so we can update the APIs so that none of you guys are influenced by any of that stuff. Not sure if you guys know, but the TCP connected bulbs are actually also manufactured by Greenwave. So if you look on the packaging, TCP partners up with other people to make those bulbs, and they were working on a firmware integration, the firmware change, and they had a limited view of what that did and what that broke. So even on TCP part, they weren't aware that this was going to cause what had happened. But if you guys aren't,
if you don't mind me jumping in, I think it's important to say why they pushed that firmware in such a what we at least looks rash to us, but it was a major security breach into their hub. Somebody had figured out a way to get into the hub and root it. So what you ended up with was a mini server and machine inside your network, which once it was controlled, they can do anything they want. So while it was a real bummer for me. I mean, I just pushed the update for the TCP bulbs out, and it got approved and released, and 2 days later, they made that forced firmware upgrade. But you can understand that security is a major concern with the Internet of Things, and it's while it hurt the way they did it for a good reason, because again, somebody got in and rooted the device and could have done anything they wanted once they were in. Anyway, a little bit of information there.
Yeah, but they found out immediately that it impacted our users, and because it impacted our users, they halted the firmware update. So you guys should know that they by no means wanted to have it play out this way.
Right.
That's kind of all the update I have right now, and I'll continue to update you guys as we progress on it. Sorry if it's very high level right now, but we're still working on a lot of internal things, and we also want to save a little bit of surprise for whatever comes up ahead too. But we will try to give you guys at least a heads up on things that are going to be relevant. Especially, I know Ben is going to be pushing for a lot of ID improvements. So I know that the platform team right now, or the past few weeks, have been working on Cassandra. But you bet that once they're done, everything is stable, that Ben is going to be behind their back and pushing them to make some of the IDE changes that we've all been asking for a very long time. I think Eve's asked the question about Hub v2 and whether or not there's re-architecting for child devices. We don't know. For the most part right now, we're re-architecting it so that we can do local processing. I don't think that we're going to be changing too much of the architecture elsewhere, at least not right now, mainly because we have a very aggressive time schedule to get that out and get that delivered to you. But we are going to have firmware upgrades down the road that may add additional features and changing architecture and stability and such. But as of right now, I haven't heard of anything like that. I do have to hop off pretty soon, but do you guys have any product questions, roadmap questions that I can help answer or shed a little bit light on would be what we've been working on. I take that silence as you guys are good.
I think everybody's really tired of having to manually push their light switches on the last 2 days.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's rough. Well, the TCP thing is one thing, and the instability is another one. But hopefully, I've seen SmartApps fire a lot faster in the past few days than before. So I'm really happy about what the team has done. I'm looking forward to. I think that they're not done with the migration quite yet, and there's going to be, from what I hear, a lot more improvements down the road in terms of performance. So I'm looking forward to all that. Ben, did I miss anything? Was there anything that I didn't cover or I didn't get a chance to cover?
Well, there's a lot of stuff that we're working on that, obviously we haven't covered yet, but I mean, I'm sure that we'll get to it in the next, call in the next couple of weeks. I think, hopefully after this migration, which is, as Scott mentioned, had a lot of the team engaged with it for months. I think that hopefully we'll see the pace of some of the platform tickets increase.
Yeah. One other thing, Gilbert, I don't know if you're the right person, or Ben, maybe you can point us in the right direction. I know that you guys, had a big push in the development or documentation, especially for the developer documentation. Mm-hmm. Is there any way we can kind of maybe get a snapshot of what's been done at certain time periods? Because it's kind of right now, you have to kind of go in and discover what's been updated and what's there.
Yeah. I don't know if
you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, like version history of the documentation. Yeah.
Something like that, or hey, we updated this section last week, or something like that.
Yeah. I think that may be a bigger focus once we kind of get more resources to put on that. I know that a lot of times, unfortunately, when you're moving so fast, you don't spend a whole lot of time documenting. So I don't even know whether or not the documentation has been updated recently.
You can see on GitHub kind of like, I'll put the link in the chat room. You can see all the updates to the documentation, but we should definitely have like a real change log that you can look at.
Yeah.
Like I said, right now you have to kind of go poke around and that's different, that's updated, and just trying to make it easy for the developers.
Yeah, I'm trying to read Cade's comment in there and see what he said. Are we going to see more integrations with Samsung devices over third-party devices, like Sonos integration slow down for Samsung, less capable competing speakers? No. I don't think so. When I'm talking to device manufacturers, vendors, and such, I weigh them along with Samsung stuff. But if I have the Samsung Shape speaker and the Sonos speaker next to each other, and I were to choose which one I want to put priority over, I'm going to more than likely, for myself personally, choose the one that has a better customer experience. And unfortunately, right now, that's going to be a Sonos. And I say unfortunately because that doesn't work well for our parent company. But if down the road Samsung steps up their game and creates a killer connected speaker, more than likely, yeah, we're going to be pushing hard for them to do a lot of the integrations ourselves themselves. But we are talking to a lot of different vendors that have competing products, and we're going to be integrating on both parts. And I'm also pushing device manufacturers to do a lot of the device types themselves, so it's less reliant on SmartThings and more reliant on those manufacturers, so that they can really pay attention and understand the nuance of their product. And like, say for instance, the Sonos one Bob wrote, and Bob and a few others wrote, but we really had to hack away at Sonos and not really understand their APIs and really sniff things and try to figure out how they manage left and right speakers, pairings, groupings, and such. But they know the product way better than we do. And if they were to write that device type handler, I'm sure as hell that it will be a lot better. It'd be a lot better than what we have today. But on that same note, we are going to be making some improvements on LAN devices. I'm still trying to scope it up and see what the timeline is and whether or not it's something that's just a few weeks away or a little bit longer, but you definitely will see some improvements on LAN connected devices. So Sonos, Hue are two that I know that we've been struggling with. So those two devices will be better supported prior to the launch of our next hub. Hey, Ermin's there, the Canadian.
What up, y'all? I'm in Dallas right now.
Oh, you're in Dallas. You're not in Canada no more.
No, because he takes Southwest, which has always one layover.
All right.
I'm flying American today, but
All right.
Yeah, that's like a perfect segue for. I guess, do you mind if I go into like developer events? Yeah. So
No, I'm actually about to hop
Are you
off
done?
now. I'm about to hop off, but if I miss anything, have Ben relay that back to me. I'll see him tomorrow, and I'll bug him on that.
Sweet.
All right, bye guys.
Later. Thanks for joining. Yeah, so Ermin is in Dallas. He was in Toronto. We're setting up for the Samsung Developer Conference, and he's there kind of like setting up demos and like making sure we have all the right equipment there. So yeah, that's one thing. I guess I wanted to update you guys on some events that we're doing. So Ben and I will actually be in New York City next week. We're going to do a meetup at WeWork, which is a brand new co-working space, one of their new locations. I'll put a link in the chat room. So check out that link if you guys are in New York City. We'll definitely do a live video. We'll do a video broadcast too, so you guys can join. It'll kind of be like an in-person developer call bonus. So definitely look for that. We'll post about it on the forums. We're doing a hackathon in Redwood City next weekend with Toyota. If you guys are in the Bay Area, that would be awesome to go to. The same day, we're doing two hackathons, one in Palo Alto, one in Austin, Texas. It's part of a huge hackathon series called Code Day. We're scheduled to do a hackathon in Chicago, November 22nd and 23rd. It's called Wild Hacks. It's mostly students, but you can sneak in and hang out with us if you're there.
Are we talking about doing maybe a meetup alongside that?
We have a meetup on probably the 20th or 21st. If you search for Chicago IoT Meetup, you'll find it. It's not fully solidified. We're still working out the details, but even if we don't do a meetup there, we'll do some kind of like informal drink up. We just signed up today for one of the best hackathons ever. It's called Hackathonica. It's the Hackathon of Lights. So I feel like I need to post that in the chat room too. We're working with all the light manufacturers. GE, Philips will be there, LifeX. So that should be pretty fun. That's in New York City. There's a link for that. That's December 13th. We're still kind of thinking about what we're going to do at CES. South by Southwest is in March of next year. We're going to do something there officially. They have a thing called Create, focused on makers and developers. So we're going to do something with hopefully Silicon Labs in a little bit, which will be awesome. We've got an ambassador program that we're working on. So if you guys want to host any meetups or go to some hackathons and represent us, just contact me or Ben. I'm Major at SmartThings, Mager. Ben, you know Ben's email. We'll talk about that. Yeah, that's basically it. I have an internal goal of like trying to fix up our developer website too. So look for some weekly, bi-weekly, or bi-monthly like updates to the developer site just to make it more friendly. That's pretty much all I have. Go Giants.
Chad, you mentioned maybe some Southern California events. If you know of any IoT-related things that we could piggyback off of, that would be good. Otherwise, we'll obviously be looking for events around the country that we can be a part of. Okay. All right. I'm going to just jump in here and say I know even some of the people on this call have expressed some interest in even working at SmartThings. And there are a number of jobs that we're hiring for. If you go to smartthings.com/about/jobs, you'll see a big list. That list is not even fully, full. There's probably half a dozen positions that we either always are hiring for or haven't been posted yet. But they range from QA to engineering to support. You know, yeah, we're trying to get a community manager, perhaps. That's one of Major and I, wish list items. Really not. I don't even know if that's community manager. It's more like helper. No, but anyways, lots of things that we're looking at hiring. So if you are looking to make a job change and you want to live in either beautiful Minneapolis or cold Bay Area, cold expensive Bay Area, no, you can either of those two places are where we're focusing our hiring efforts right now.
Minneapolis rocks, by the way.
So that means I can't work remotely then.
Again?
Who's typing so loudly? Please mute.
We
you.
missed what Patrick said because we were muted, or we had our speakers off. Sorry.
Oh, I just said Minneapolis rocks. Come visit. Join us.
I heard snow emergency started this week.
Hey,
Those are rocks.
We made it past October 16th, which is the average for snow. Halloween's right around the corner. Once every 20 years, we only get 4 or 5 feet of snow on Halloween, so it's fine.
Yeah, right.
Those aren't rocks. Those are chunks of ice.
Yeah.
It's 80 degrees here right now.
Trust me, the great thing about winter is the lakes freeze over and it's faster to get across the lake than to drive around it.
I got a notification of snow emergency and I was panicked that I was going to get my car towed, even though it's not in Minneapolis anymore. Again.
Okay. What's next on the agenda there, Ben?
I mean, we got through most of the agenda items. I want to discuss some of the things that have been going on in the community. I wanted to talk a bit about there's some sort of a lingering issue around some scheduled or automatic mode changes that we are trying to gather data on because it's not across the board and it doesn't seem to be super easy to diagnose. But if you guys do experience something with mode changes now after the migration, we would appreciate you sending in data, even if it's just to me or if it's to support. We're collecting occurrences of weirdness with mode changes and trying to get that working. There was something with Smart Alarm that it seems related, but it might not be, that we're also looking into. And then there's a few other more minor things with some regressions on a few smart apps like Double Tap that the fix is in for, but it won't go live until tomorrow at the earliest. So I guess it's open to questions for the last 20 minutes.
I asked a question in the agenda posting regarding parallel processing, working threads perhaps within a smart app.
Ben, did you see that one?
No. Yeah, I see every thread on the forum still. I read every single one. So I posted that to some of the developers, just asking more about it because I'm not able to really answer it, and it was at the wrong time because it was like yesterday, and they just weren't able to look at it. So I'm hoping to get follow up again here in the next couple days.
Yeah, I noticed the question came up in another forum topic on dimmers, right? On big dim from one switch, multiple bulbs. And the point is that, right, that if you do something within one smart app, even a loop across a bunch of lights, or they happen sequentially. Whereas if you kick off a separate app for each light bulb, they run in parallel. I've got 3 U-bulbs down here. They're in one group, right? And if I attach one action to each of them, they'll all turn on about the same time. But if I put them in a group first and then attach on when open door.
Yeah, if you don't mind, Terry, I think the difference, the way that it's going, Ben, is if the lights as a device or their own apps subscribe to an event, they will all drive at the same time. But if you drive them with an on command from one single app, they go sequentially because you're enumerating through the devices that the user has picked. So you're getting to the same place, but there's 2 separate endpoints.
Yeah, that sounds right. And the more general case is within any smart app, when you have a loop of things that you could occur concurrently or in parallel, right? You'd like to be able to fork them off without blocking in a multi-threaded fashion. Does that make sense? I hear a lot of nothing.
Ermin, you're thinking, I see you.
What's the question?
It makes
So
sense
let's say,
to me. Yeah.
What was the question?
Right. Let's say a very simple case. The door, a window sensor opens. You want to turn on some lights and turn on a siren, right? Those could actually be done. You could send those 2 things concurrently. Now, sequentially, they're probably only a fraction of a second apart. But on these light bulbs, I see it actually, I can count. Maybe it takes 2 seconds to turn on 3 light bulbs instead of just under 1 second. So if you have a lot of actions associated with an event, the ability to kick them off in parallel is going to get more and more important.
My question is in the same vein as that.
Do we lose Ermin? Oh, there he is. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Do you want to do your question too?
Yeah, the question is kind of similar, it's specifically for dashboard apps. I've noticed that if I dynamically collect a list of devices and I want to see the current status of those devices, it takes about 2 seconds per device to make a round trip request. So the only real efficient way to get the information is to collect all the devices and submit it as one request. But sometimes that's just, in my experience, it's just not practical to do, especially if you want them to be really dynamic.
So we're talking about device types or smart apps? I guess we're talking about smart apps then, right?
Smart apps processing. I've noticed that there's a 2-second minimum when asking like an API endpoint, just a simple, what's the status of this device? It takes 2 seconds.
Yeah, that's bad. That's not good. What's the device?
Lights, light switches. The only ones I've worked with so far, even just plugged in switches and TCP lights and GE lights, they all take the same amount of time.
We had that same error today, actually, and we're sending a note to the engineers about how long it takes, and we also were getting back like empty responses, so we're aware of some of that stuff.
Yeah, but 2 seconds is way too long.
Yeah, I think we'll play this part back to some of the engineers and that aren't maybe on this call and see what we can do about some of those things, and just get like a sense of what the roadmap is for some of the things that Terry was mentioning as far as parallel processing.
Yeah, just a real quick on obviously parallel processing in its truest sense is not going to be possible. It's not like you can send 2 radio commands at the same time. But have you guys entertained any thought of making any kind of queuing mechanism available where we can submit to a queue and then it's got a cycle of, say, a half a second intervals where it will fire off all of them, from a priority standpoint? Because I think really what's happening is we've got a processing delay of the logic and the round tripping from the device and device status back, and then looping through the next device and the next device and the next device. Whereas you could just queue up, essentially a batch command saying, here's a list of devices and here's the list of, we want these all on, and just fire that off from the hub on the radio as fast as it can.
It's a good question, Patrick, right? Because I haven't looked at the code for walking through a group of devices from a dashboard to see, is it waiting for a status before it can return to the next item?
Yeah, well, in my experience, that's kind of what it's happening that's really what's introducing the delay. Is your loop is effectively saying, okay, well, the radio has got to send that command out, and then, it's not necessarily going to wait for a response, but it's going to basically wait for that, that command to be finished. To me, a more efficient way to do it would be to have a queue that we're submitting requests to. It's a first in, first out kind of queuing mechanism, but you're queuing up the commands. Therefore, they're always going to get executed at the hub level, not at the cloud level. And that's really where the problem is because the cloud.
That's a good question.
Non-blocking send, right?
That's a good question to Ermin. Maybe you know this. When I load the mobile app, and I go into my things, all right? Or even when I just load the mobile apps and my dashboard comes up, does it pull the devices that are in that location at that time and wait for a response? Or does it get it gets the latest events and attributes states that's in the database already, right?
Yeah. So let's start from the beginning. Unless your smart app purposely waits for a response to a device, it's not going to wait to send the next command. So your messages are being queued on the hub by the respective radio. So Z-Wave will queue devices. If there's no response, it will wait for a device to respond. If there is no response, then it will ditch and go to the next one. But it won't not send a command out in the meantime. And Zigbee just sends everything out and can get anything back, regardless of anything, right? Zigbee doesn't care. Zigbee doesn't need to queue. Just shoots out, and can go faster than you could even blink an eye. The only thing that does queue is Z-Wave, but it shouldn't be stopping any responses from coming in. So unless your smart app is specifically waiting for a state to fire off the next command, they should all just be fired off. They're actually going into a queue right now. But they're going into a queue to be sent down to the hub.
Okay,
and
so there is a batch burst then that really is happening at the cloud level.
It's not a batch, but they're going into a queue to be processed, and at bad times they're being batched. When there's massive slowdowns, that's what that is. The slowdowns are batching of commands.
Okay.
What's happening is they're getting to our load balancer, and they're not. They're being held back by some reason or another, but that's not an account level or a hub level. That's at a platform level. So any smart app shouldn't be waiting for a response to send the next one. Going forward, smart apps and device types will live on the hub. The execution of that will be much quicker, almost instantaneous. Our tests have shown just about 20 milliseconds between the command and its response. So it depends on a few things, obviously. Protocol LAN is much longer. We're not sure about Bluetooth just yet. That should go down a lot more. And then jumping to the next question, once you load up the app, the mobile app, any client app, it's not polling for device state. It's grabbing the last known state from the database. So it's not going out and it's not requesting everything on purpose.
Ben, this is great. No, keep walking around.
Like a YouTube video.
I know. It needs music.
Like in the background.
Is there any
like
documentation?
Is
there any documentation on what is local now? Like, what can we do locally with the current hub?
Locally, you can. The only documentation is what's on the document site right now. The next edition would be FDLS, and that would cover this hub. but there's nothing as far as Hub v2.
Right. The current hub, I was looking for like what can I do IP wise, like IP device to IP device, because it clearly looks like that the hub talks directly to the TCP device. It's not going out to the cloud. And on that TCP front, for people that have those, if you group everything into a fixture, you can have 3 lights instantaneously turn on and off at the same time.
Yeah, so I just posted a link in the chat that has a links to our documentation site. It's the cloud and LAN connected device, main site. But there also exists just on, you have to build a service manager, which a service manager is just a smart app. Typically handles discovery of a device, creating a child device under it, and things like that. But on that page, there's building LAN connected device types, which will go into it on what you can actually do on a local network.
Hey, Irma, I hate to get into an argument with you, but there really isn't a good example there. There's plenty of examples in the community for how to get a send hub command and get a response back, but that documentation lacks any working examples.
I mean, on that front, all the documentation lacks a lot.
Yeah.
We need, I mean, we're hiring a documentation developer whose primary job or hers will be to update the docs, create examples, interact with the community in those cases. And so I'm interviewing someone, I think tomorrow, but it's a priority. We know that is a need.
I will say I just tested it. I love the fact that you're now telling me that the message is truncated if it's too long. So at least I'm not getting blank responses back.
Yes, are you talking about the logging?
Yeah. Real nice job there. But I still would love to see that on a local hub basis, knowing that the response is too big. Either you won't parse it, like you just drop the response. Still today, trying to get my Control 4 device list, which is just gigantic. Aww. The issue is it just disappears into the ether. There's just no status back to know whether or not things are just getting dropped or truncated.
That's on what? You're not getting a response at all, you said?
Yeah, so I'm pinging my Control 4 SOAP interface on 5020 TCP. Should be getting back about an 8 meg XML file, which I know is way bigger than even the memory that you have left to process. But the hub just kind of just says blah. Doesn't give me anything.
Yeah, that's huge for the hub though.
Yeah. No, I know, but those are the types of what I still have not gotten an answer from anybody. Maybe you can answer this. Is what is the size of a response that we can get? And I assume it has to be a well-formed either HTML or XML JSON type object.
Yeah, assuming it's formed correctly, that's definitely an answer we can get. Typically, there shouldn't be an actual limit. It will just send in chunks. What's probably not happening is we're not stitching it together back.
Right. My understanding is you guys were working on a kind of a round trip up to the cloud and back, and just using the hub as the packet relay. Is that on the roadmap, or is that actually supposed to be working?
Well, no, that's definitely a roadmap thing for Hub v2, where that Hub v2 will be able to send that no problem.
Right.
And much larger as well. We're going to do video streaming and things like that. But
okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I can find that out though. That should be typically easy to find out. I'll ask.
Yeah. So for example, if I wanted to try to discover the 100 or so Zigbee devices I have through my Control 4 hub, I really would have to set them up one by one and not get the data back. So it's essentially a non-starter until I can process that XML.
All right, I got to drop. So good talking to you guys. It's on you.
Hey, Ben, one of the things that somebody just said on the chat here was the development guidelines. So like user interface and stuff like that. I know there's examples on something like creating a device or creating an app, but from a more overarching design guideline would really be nice, especially when you start doing service managers and child apps and dynamic pages and such. Has there been any discussion in the office about those kind of things?
Yeah, I mean, I think like part of it is just like, what we have for the documentation is kind of like the bare minimum. Some would say it's not to that point yet, but and what we know we need to do is do things like guides, best practices, examples. Not only like what you're talking about is sort of like UI design guidelines, but also
exactly.
But also like technical design guidelines. Like how should you be thinking about writing code? We see a lot of different smart app submissions, and they're just across the board. Some are very well formatted and commented and whatever, and some are not. And we don't provide like, oh, here's the best practice sort of thing. You can skin the cat a couple different ways. So we know that's a part of it, and I would imagine a full-time documentation developer will help with that a lot. It's funny. Some people on the team didn't think that we could keep that person busy as a full-time job, and I laughed. So, it's just like if we stopped developing right now, I think we could keep that person busy for a year. But because we're continually adding to the platform and things are changing, obviously that person can be busy for a long time.
Well, one example is that you might give your colleagues is, like, let's say I'm developing a device, and I'll use a recent example when I hacked a MIMO light into my doorbell. Well, should I call it a button, or should I call it some other kind of, give it what capabilities so it's discoverable by Hello Home for the different circumstances that you would want to take actions on that device attribute or capability. It's those kinds of things for somebody starting out on the platform, especially. What does it mean if I don't give it an on and off? Well, it won't be found if you want to take, the on and off events. You can't subscribe to it. Those things aren't quite explained to somebody that's wanted to start out developing in the platform. And while it may seem, for the people that have been here for a while it may seem straightforward, I thought about the person like they can call it Bob or Fred instead of on and off, and they don't understand what was the ramification of that decision I just made. And it won't work at Hello Home.
Right. I'm catching up on the comment thread. There's been some good suggestions with eaves and service managers and couplings with child devices. I think that sort of started some of this conversation. I think one of the questions was about what's allowed in our subset of Groovy. I can answer that to some extent. I think it's almost everything is allowed in Groovy, except we just sort of sandbox some things so you can't do like infinite loops and things like that. But if Scott was on, he could have given a much better answer to that one. But yeah, just knowing like what's available to you would be good.
Has there been any discussion on I think we talked about it about 8-10 months ago, was it being able to import different packages into our smart apps and devices? I know there's this security issue that goes along with that, but Bob had mentioned that there may be some headway into that direction at someday.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we have like as big of plans for the IDE tools as you guys can imagine. I think we have to balance it like with like making it too complicated for people to get started, and then make a decision at some point like, all right, at what point can we decouple the simulation from the the code writing? Is there a way that we could actually do that where you could use your own development tools that you prefer, that versus like in a web browser, but then still simulate in some way? I think that we have to look at all those sort of scenarios. But yeah, I mean, bringing in packages is one thing, and I think that's just a matter of us having to do more bigger code review when a package is imported. We'd have to really know what's coming in. That would be good. We haven't even rolled out the GitHub integration that has been ready for 3 months or more, I think. and so that's not like that's just more of like a resources and priorities thing than anything else, and just pushing that forward. We have a lot of improvements to make in the whole IDE, smart app submission processing and approval and publishing and all that. It's manual beyond belief right now, so we're really trying to streamline that.
Well, when Ermin gets back, put him on the quirky. All the devices are ready, dude. Every one of them, every wink.
Yeah, it's sometimes
And I did figure out the propane tank thing will work with a keg of beer. It'll tell you how full you are.
Well, that might be the impetus to get him to work on it then.
There you go.
The device types may be ready, but quirky devices are not ready for prime time yet.
Well, I wouldn't make it a mission critical, but I guess beer could be mission critical. But some of the things that they have on there that you could use is nice convenience, not necessity kind of devices. And
I like the little dashboard thing that sits on your desk that tells you how long it's going to take you to drive home and things like that.
Yeah, that works great, and it's nice having it in your SmartThings to be able to see what that drive time is, whatever you can put on that. It's called the Quirky Nimbus. That's a cool little device. I like it. It's an alarm clock too.
Yeah, the Nimbus is sweet, but the spotter, my girlfriend is actually on Wink and Quirky still, and she's waiting on her SmartThings hub.
Yeah, my spotters are really accurate on their temperature and humidity. I mean, they've been sitting here for almost a year now. At first, they were horrendous. They suck at light and sound. I will not give them too much for that, but for vibration, for temperature and humidity, at least the two I have are pretty reasonable and are pretty accurate. So, I mean, I wouldn't use them as smoke alarms or anything like that, or a security device. But as far as the washer and dryer, they're perfect. They're cheap. It tells me when the washer's done.
All right. I saw something that you posted, Todd, in the developer discussion thread. I just want to ask you about it, about a user group call and a developer discussion call. Are you thinking have two separate calls? I've been thinking more and more about how we can get this call to be as good as it can be and whatever. I think some people forget about it because of the alternating weeks thing, and I was wondering, should we have it weekly, or what sorts of things we could do to improve it?
Well, what I was thinking is, I think a lot of times we talk about topics in here that are more user-oriented. They're about things that, my lights didn't go on time. We're talking about the platform in general. And that's not necessarily a developer technical discussion, which I think a developer's call like this could be very good. So I thought maybe, and we could put it to the group that's still online here, is there enough breadth of topics that would warrant a user group type discussion where we talk about platform and future, the Hub V2, and then on the other call that we talk about technical issues like this method doesn't work in certain scenarios, and talking about is there different ways to call the lights coming on? Is there a better format? Things like that. And it's just something that I thought I'd bring into the discussion.
Every week, the support team does a roundup of the top 5 issues of the week that they bring from their experience with customers too, like engineering and QA teams. It's almost like an extension of that. It sounds like where you know not only like the top support issues, but also roadmap suggestions and things like that people would want. I mean, I don't know. I don't know quite how different those two calls might be. I think like keeping the tenor like more broad and positive in this call is good, but there's certainly times when you have to address issues, just maybe not getting bogged down in specific issues on this call, as they might not relate to everyone. So yeah, I totally get what you're saying.
Well, let's ask the folks here. I mean, is everybody a developer? This is a developer discussion, right? Is everybody on this call a developer, or are there some people that are just users? I don't mean to sound like that, just users.
Yeah. Well, at least I'm a user. Well, I just got started to play with this platform, so I can consider myself to be a user. But I would love to be a developer. I've actually used Smart Apps from most of you guys, and I kind of learned quite a bit, fixed a little code here and there. So kind of somewhere in between.
You know, here's a thought. You know, maybe we could use the SmartThings infrastructure, but really have a user-to-user, call that we could invite, people from SmartThings, but essentially create a user community that helps each other out, and then we bring in the resources, because we don't need product managers, we don't need all the depth that comes to this call. But I think, there's a lot of people that, there's kind of a weak, independent IRC channel, but a weekly, video conference chat where we can get together. Anybody can ask, how do I make this work? It's almost like an online, tech support, but user to user side of things. Because the community is great, but it's really hard if you can't just get that time to explain what the issue is and to see if you can get the collective hive mind here that we have to help out.
Yeah, I like that that's idea. Good, Patrick. That's good.
Think of it as a SmartThings call for help.
Yeah.
Nothing like trying to troubleshoot live on television, I will tell you. It's really tough.
Yeah, and Patrick, I definitely agree with you on that front, because there's a lot of times on the forum where someone asks for help or XYZ thing, and it's hard for me to explain it over a forum, so I just end up writing a piece of code for them to get it done.
Yeah, and I mean, it's one thing to do it for them, but let's take a little biblical verse here: teach them to fish, and we've got to, we keep growing the community of developers. I don't care if you call yourself a pseudo developer or just a user who copied and pasted a smart app from a GitHub. If you copied and pasted a smart app from GitHub, you're a developer. You're not a good one. You got a lot of learning to do, but you're learning, and that's the cool thing. And that's what I love about this platform is people can just follow some 7 simple directions to copy code, paste it in, and like my little Ubi screen scrape. I just realized the code changes that somebody else proposed. It was something they changed on their website. They had already fixed it. And, that's what I love about this is, if somebody can shoot me a PM and I can't get to it, fast enough, what have you, but somebody else can step in, fix it, and go. But we need to bring a community together, and not just, and no offense, Ben, you guys are busy and everything, but if the community really wants a user chat, we got to do this as users and really help each other out. SmartThings, you guys are busy. You guys are developing stuff. You guys should be doing that. But, I think there's a handful of developers / users here that would probably be willing to step up and help participate and lead that, whether it's weekly, monthly, as needed, what have you. But it's essentially just, hey, what are you working on? What do you want to do? What's your project? Because we
But I think that the platform really has 2 kinds of users. Especially you guys, have you noticed in the last month the new people that are coming in?
Oh yeah.
And they're asking, how do I connect my light? And
right.
We're down there going, well, you cut your code and you use this and you save it and you publish it. And those users, really, the platform doesn't need to cater, or we should not be teaching them how to write code.
No.
The platform should be solving the problem with a very intuitive user interface. So I think,
but it doesn't have
there's
You know?
people like us that extend the back end of the platform and create more functionality with our customization and everything. But there's another call that they probably just listen to us and go, huh?
Well, then
That
you
should
just
be,
gotta
here's how I connect
create-
that three-way light,
Yeah.
things like that.
But I think there are a lot of people out there who are trying to figure out what third-party hardware and software and various other things to buy
Yep.
or use. That SmartThings
Exactly.
is stick their neck out and say, hey, we endorse this if it's not an official sponsored thing. You know, we have that freedom as a user group to say, hey, this device over here is great, or oh my God, that thing sucks. But it's our opinion. It's not libel. You know, the lawyers don't have to get involved and sign releases and all that fun stuff.
Well, a real store will solve a bunch of these issues because a person could download the app, put it on their system, and then they would be able to say, okay, this is Patrick's app. I need to talk to Patrick about this thing. Rather than they could get the version of the thing that I fixed, that I found, that I added something to Patrick's code, and Patrick had gotten it from somebody else and added something to it. And they're in the 5th iteration, but there's the other 4 versions of it are still floating around on the message board. And the perfect example of that is the Honeywell thermostat.
Or the Nest code that doesn't work that's in the Smart App Publish area. I can't tell you how many times a week I get somebody who says, hey, I just installed the Nest thing. Why can't I get your driver to work? And it's like, well, you're not using the code I wrote. You're using the code that was published through Smart Apps. And yeah, I should probably go through the submission process, but it's Nest and you guys are working on an official thing. And, you know, it's just a headache. But at the same time, you know, you can get it to work. You're just not going to get support from SmartThings. And
So Ben,
okay.
I think Ben, why don't you put out a little monkey survey to the users and see if they'd like 2 calls or 1?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking through the like sort of like technical requirements for like how could we have like an ad hoc, you know, video channel that we just sort of like, you know, people can jump into and have those kind of conversations. I don't know that Google Hangout can do it, for example. I'm not sure how, you know, Blue Jeans could handle that. There's certainly, you know, we could have a Blue Jeans call probably just like open at all times. It doesn't need a moderator and people can just join. I just haven't, we have never tested that.
Or just set a time a day or a couple of days a week up for it, you know?
Sure.
Anyway,
yeah. So,
anyway, that's to answer your question. I thought that maybe there was another, you know, maybe another level of discussion that needed to be had that would help people that are coming on board, that are looking at it from a user standpoint, from what the product ultimately should do. I'm just a user. I don't need to develop code. I don't need to know anything about an app or devices. I plug it in, turn it on, and it does what I want.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, to that point and to the point that you guys were just making about supporting your own like device types and smart apps. Like I look at the forums right now on a few of these apps, like, you know, Smart Alarm and, you know, a few of these other ones that have like actually over 100 installs and they're not even published because people want them. But then there's such a support, you know, problem because, you know, people have questions and just like Patrick was mentioning, and we have to make that somehow better. So yeah, I mean, it's not. This is not our current plan for the app marketplace. You know, this is the infancy of it. So yeah, it's probably not even the infancy. It's probably not born yet.
It's the mitosis stage.
The Google Communities has the Hangouts on Air, which can spawn anytime with all of the users in a community, whoever's happened to be in the community at that particular time. There's a live chat, and Hangouts can just pop up with 4 or 5, 25 users.
Is it video capable?
Yeah, it's it even integrates with YouTube for the live broadcast and recording.
Really?
And desktop screen sharing as well.
Yep.
Oh, that would be nice. I mean, think of a new user coming on and saying, all right, I want to install a light switch, or, you know, it's the videos that you guys SmartThings has right now is one thing, but you can't ask it questions if something comes up that's a little bit different.
Right. And I mean, we don't need people like going and finding the turn it on when my door opens smart app when they can easily or should easily be able to make that functionality work within the app.
Right.
So yeah, we've got some work to do on that, and yeah, we'll see. I'm looking at the community stuff on Google Plus or Google Communities right now. Interesting and timely because we don't know. We're evaluating BlueJeans still and seeing if it'll meet our needs. Originally, why we went to it is because there was like a 7 user limit or 12 user limit on Hangouts. I don't know if that's been relaxed or if there's a way to get more, but we might keep it just for this and not use it as much internally and use Hangouts more. So.
Yeah, the other thing that would be.
So actually, as a new user, I had a. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, so I had a couple of suggestions as a new user. I started playing with this stuff about 2 months ago, and I have a ton of smart apps installed. I have about 37 plus devices. I've used code from every one of you guys. As a matter of fact, I just installed Smart Alarm, and I got like one of those exceptions you get with OAuth, and I found it was a Java number exception with some exit delay stuff. Now I'm actually comfortable with code, and I just figured all this out and fixed it. But one thing that might be interesting is, every one of you guys have written some really cool apps, but it might be nice if you just have like, which are the apps that are installed and self-published by people? Just like these are the top 10 apps today. And if you can just put that in a central location, I don't even have to go troll all these threads and say, I install a smart app and then I see inside, safety, there's like 64 apps in there and Smart Alarm is somewhere. And I don't even know if that's the good app or which one's more popular, which one works, which one's, used by most people. If I had those 10 apps somewhere right at the beginning in the community thread saying, this is what everybody uses, this is what most people have self-published, I wouldn't have to go through all these threads and do what I just did.
All right, so who wants to start?
And, I think as far as accessing all these devices, sorry?
I was just gonna say, I see so many other websites that have, like XDA developers, they'll have a master thread that's just sticky of latest post to latest app, and, you want Nest, here it is. You want, TCP bulbs, here it is. You want Hue, here it is.
Yep.
That would be just and I know there's a wiki function within the community site. I think it's just going to take somebody to do it. And, we can all sit here and talk about it, but it's, the other thing before I forget that I think it was brought up in the community forums that I would love to see, because I think it could, it's just the natural marketer in me is conversion guides. If you're coming from Revolve or Insteon or any of these guys, how do you get started?
Yeah.
How do you make that conversion? And there's so much brain power in this group that we just got to get somebody to document that stuff. And because there's a flood ready to come this way, and that's what I'm seeing the wave started with the community right now.
All right.
And also, I think a lot of people don't realize that the app itself actually has instructions on how to configure each of these devices. I think I found that really interesting. When you're trying to add an app, there's an instructions manual and stuff like that right there. So a lot of people don't even bother going to those devices and saying, okay, look, here's an instruction manual of how do I go about doing this. I've added about 18 Vimo switches, a whole bunch of Zigbee Z-Wave devices to my home, absolutely having no issues. So actually, a side topic on
Vimo switches. That's amazing.
Yeah, actually, I have 18 of them, and I think I'm getting a couple more. And I'm actually part of the Vimo Maker program, so I've gotten one of those Vimo Maker kits with sensors and relays and stuff like that. Oh, yeah. I know, Patrick. I don't have any of those. I'm completely stickler for the phone and configure rules and stuff like that. But I'm actually wondering support for the Vimo Maker and the Insight switches. That's something that keeps coming up, I know. I'm actually playing with the Maker. It's actually really cool. You can do all sorts of stuff with the relay. Considering it to be something I can use for a blinds automation project. Any ideas of when you guys are going to support that, or can I do something with that today?
Yeah, I mean, the Insight switch has been on the docket for a while. We've been hesitant to put it on because we just have some issues. Unlike you, many people with Wemo are having issues with the integration. And so we've just been like, it's been a support burden, and so we haven't brought in another thing yet. But I mean, it's definitely, I don't think it's very hard to add. Yeah.
Okay. Actually, I'm not that curious about the energy consumption part, but at least if you can provide support for turning things on and off, I think that'll be a huge start as part of the Vimo Connect app.
Yeah.
Send it to me, Ben.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I'm going to jump off because I want to go watch the Giants win the World Series. But I left you with a link to an awesome picture of Ben in a nice outfit.
Do not. I'm closing this down right now.
Oh boy.
All right.
All
so
right. Hey Ben, again, I want to just please tell the guys, the rest of the team, awesome job. I know it was a pain, but awesome job on getting the conversion over, and good job. That's all I can say.
All right. Well, thanks.
All right.
It's only the first phase of it, but I'll pass that along.
All right. Good night, guys.
All right. Yeah, and with that, I think I will also close it down. I've got the drive up to the city because I actually drove today like an idiot.
Thanks,
unless
guys.
there's any other things that people want to talk about, we'll close it down here.
Well, it's awesome seeing you guys in person. Thank you.
All right.
Yep. And again, Ben, just a nice job on everything. I mean, I know you guys were down and out there for a little while, but I think the community's behind you guys still. So that's the most important thing. So we're here, we're strong, we're behind you guys.
Thanks.
And remember, Minneapolis rocks.
Cheers, guys.
All right.
Take care.
Bye.
See ya.